Hello, I am Scary Sis.
And I am Scary Bro.
And we are
The Scary Sibs.
Hello, mortals, and welcome to Scary Sibs.
Consider, if you will, the turducken, an unorthodox Thanksgiving dish consisting of a chicken shoved inside of a duck shoved inside of a turkey. For some, this birdception is a tasty, if not overindulgent feast. For others, it's a grotesque abomination consisting of a being stuffed inside of another being that doesn't really belong there. Much like today's subject matter, demonic possession. Today, we are counting down our picks for the top 10 possession/exorcism films.
These are movies where exorcisms and possessions are the main focus of the film, not a side plot.
This means, if there's any film where a character is possessed, but it's not the main focus, it will not be on here, such as Paranormal Activity or The Conjuring.
Starting out today's countdown, at number 10, The Exorcism of Emily Rose. After an exorcism goes wrong, resulting in the death of a young woman, we see a lawyer named Aaron Bruner take the case to defend the accused priest. Throughout the trial, we see flashbacks to the possession and deterioration of the young woman in question, Emily. This movie spends an exuberant amount of time in the courtroom and honestly is kind of boring. The decision to show religion versus science battling it out in the courtroom is an interesting one, but at some point it needs to feel like a horror movie, and this did not.
Agreed. The scares in this film were actually well done, what few of them there were. I feel like this movie would have had potential had it actually focused on the exorcism more and not the court case. After all, the movie is called The Exorcism of Emily Rose, not The Trial of Father Moore. If the film were to be truly effective, it should have been primarily set during the exorcism and save the events of the court case for a cliff note or epilogue near the end.
Fact is, one should not forget that they're watching a horror movie as they watch it.
Number 9. The Last Exorcism. The Last Exorcism is a found footage film about a fraudulent exorcist named Cotton Marcus, who travels to Louisiana when he gets a call from a concerned father that his daughter Nell may be possessed. Convinced that demons aren't real, he brings along a camera crew to document the proceedings in an attempt to prove once and for all that possessions and exorcisms are phony. However, he begins to learn that, just maybe, he may have stumbled upon real evil this time.
This film builds up so much anticipation, and like many found footage films, completely falls apart at the end. The end of this movie is somehow confusing and predictable at the same time, and honestly, just doesn't make sense.
The Last Exorcism had an intriguing premise, but was let down by its execution. Plot holes made the film confusing, and the out-of-nowhere and unsatisfying ending made the experience an altogether disappointing watch.
Number 8. The Exorcist 3. This film follows a police lieutenant, Bill Kinderman, who investigates several gruesome murders that all seem to be connected. A visit to the psychiatric hospital and several murders later, Bill starts to put the connection together as he and viewers are greeted with a familiar face. This film has a good story, but is very slow-moving and full of over-the-top acting and choppy editing.
The main thing one will notice about this film is that for most of its runtime, it doesn't feel like an exorcist movie or even a horror movie, but rather a police procedural. And while the story is interesting, I would have loved to have seen more horror elements throughout. Once the scares do arrive, however, they are well executed and pull you right back into the dark world of the original.
It is good, but it is definitely not the quality of the original Exorcist.
Number 7. The Possession. This 2012 film centers around a young girl named Emily, who buys a mysterious box at a yard sale. After this purchase, Emily begins to grow obsessed with the box and starts acting aggressively towards those around her. Her father soon learns that the box contains an evil spirit that's bent on claiming Emily for itself.
Her father proves that he would do anything to save his daughter. This film is what I would call a good starter exorcist film for someone who hasn't seen a lot of horror movies. For more experienced horror viewers, it is a bit of an eye roller.
The acting in this film leaves a bit to be desired as it can occasionally veer into over-the-top territory. Also, the music is annoyingly loud, blaring when it should be silent and ruining the scares. Though, I will say that there were some decent and creative scary scenes to be found in here, and I do like that the film borrows more from Jewish practices, showing us how other religions besides just Catholicism perform exorcisms.
Brother.
Yes, sister.
So that box made Emily possessed. Is that how possession works?
Well, yes, in theory that's one way someone may become possessed, though I have not seen such an artifact in either my normal life or my afterlife, so I wouldn't worry too much about it.
Funny, I found this outside of the crypt this morning.
Sister, I wouldn't open...
I will destroy you all! I have possessed a human. Hail to mortal.
Okay, two problems. One, I hail to no one. Two, I'm not exactly a mortal. I'm a reanimated corpse, as is sister, whom you've just possessed.
Oh, you have got to be kidding me.
I'm afraid not, my demonic not friend.
The first time I possess someone and it's a corpse?
I'm afraid so.
Why are you all here in this morgue on the floor?
Well, it's a bit of a long story. Let's just say we weren't particularly well liked in life. So when we died, we were just kind of thrown in here. This isn't even a family crypt. It's just some random mausoleum. They just kind of threw us in here and shut the door. It's mainly sister's fault, but I shan't disparage her while she's, not here.
So let me get this straight. Not only did I possess a corpse for my first possession, it is a corpse that no one even likes.
Yes, I believe that is the hand you've been dealt.
At least tell me there's somewhere close where I can get some food. I want to try some human food while I'm up here.
Well, it's been a while since I've eaten, but I believe there's a sandwich shop just up the road there. Well, while sister is, otherwise occupied, I'm going to continue with the countdown. And since we're on the subject of demons possessing corpses, number 6, the possession of Hannah Grace. After an attempted exorcism of a young girl named Hannah Grace ends in her death, her body is brought to a morgue, where it's looked after by a new morgue technician named Megan. Though, to Megan's horror and shock, it becomes apparent that while Hannah has died, the demon may still be trapped within her mangled corpse. This movie provided exactly what the trailers promised, a satisfyingly creepy film about a possessed cadaver stalking a woman throughout a morgue. Though I do wish it had just been her alone in the morgue, instead of practically surrounded by side characters, as that would have made the film much eerier and more claustrophobic. Also, this morgue was a bit too bright and clean to be effectively creepy as a setting. The film also lacks some of the intellect, depth, and nuance of a typical possession film, though as a turn-your-brain-off monster movie, providing one has a brain, it's sufficiently spine-tingling and entertaining. Number 5, The Wailing. This film...
Oh man, we're reviewing horror movies? Exorcism movies? I got this. There he does watch these until morning, demon soul.
Well, have at it, by all means.
Alright. This film follows a police officer in a small village in Korea. When a stranger arrives to town, so does an infestation of illness and murder. When the police officer's own daughter starts displaying signs, he knows he must stop this evil force. Things only worsen from there, including more deaths, botched rituals, hospital visits, and more. However, these are only the beginning events of a layered and complex film that keeps viewers guessing at every turn.
This movie is a bit of a long watch, clocking in at around 2.5 hours. But it is also a very deep story full of details about what's going on. Though sometimes the film does feel like it loses itself in its own twisted web of a narrative, zigzagging between twists and turns in a way that can be difficult to keep track of.
This film has a lot going on, and it can be a little hard to follow. It's like the filmmakers were trying to do a lot of different things, and they were all good, but they shoved them together, and sometimes it really didn't make sense.
Number 4, The Pope's Exorcist. This film stars Russell Crowe as real-life exorcist Father Gabriel Amorth, as he is called to exorcise a demon from the body of a boy whose family is visiting the Vatican. As he wrestles with this demon, he learns that it is not merely after the boy, but the entirety of the Catholic Church may be in grave danger. What are you doing?
I'm trying to do the head thing, you know? That's like Demon 101.
Yes, but need I remind you we are cadavers. Rigor mortis is going to make that challenging.
Well, anyway, this is a decent film, but it's filled with cliches and tropes associated with exorcism films. Overall, this is a humbling and interesting film with some eye-roll moments throughout.
Yes, the movie did have many of the standard beats when it comes to these types of movies, and I'm not sure why they felt the need to include an American family if they're in the Vatican. The film would have been easy enough to follow had they been Italian. Still, I feel as though the movie handled its admittedly overused tropes well, being the better example of many. And by the end, once it shakes the standard formula and gets into more of an ancient conspiracy groove, I was interested to see where it was going.
Number 3, The Rite. A skeptical, aspiring priest begrudgingly takes an offer to complete an exorcism course in Rome. As the assistant experienced priest in exorcisms, his skepticism is still very prevalent until the point where his personal demons meet the real demons, and in a turn of events, he must play the role of the lead exorcist in a highly unusual ritual. The story and events of this movie have a good balance of being original, but not totally going off the rails.
This movie is superbly acted, though of course the standout performance is horror veteran Anthony Hopkins as Father Lucas Trevant, the aging priest that teaches our young hero to expel demons. Later in the film, once Father Trevant gets possessed, which isn't a spoiler, it was in all the advertising for the film, Hopkins is able to convincingly portray a very vulgar demon that enjoys tormenting the protagonists.
Vulgar? That's a strong word. You know, honestly, all of this just feels like demons.
Well, it was made from the perspective of humans, and your kind hasn't been particularly nice to them.
Whatever!
Number 2, Deliver Us from Evil. This film stars Eric Bana as a police officer investigating an unusual series of crimes committed by a trio of soldiers returning from Iraq. However, the strange nature of these crimes leads him to believe that the soldiers may not exactly be themselves, and he teams up with a priest to get to the bottom of this mystery. Oh, sister, you're back, and it's actually you.
Yes, that demon was quite annoying, and I wanted to be rid of it.
How did you manage?
Why, I exorcised it, of course.
You're not a trained exorcist. What did you do?
He was not a fan of doing 20 push-ups.
Oh, you exorcised it. Ha, 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 ha. Well played, sister.
Yes. Anyways, this film is unique, well-balanced, and non-inclusive of cliches and boring tropes. It was scary and made you want to sleep with the lights on, but does not sacrifice story for scary. This film is very developed and satisfies in every way. Between an opening scene that intrigues viewers from the start, great acting, a clock ticking down, and more, this film does not leave viewers wanting.
This movie combines supernatural horror with police procedural in a perfect way, delivering a movie that is both a compelling mystery and an effective horror film. I feel like this is what Exorcist 3 was attempting to achieve, but we feel that Deliver Us from Evil simply did it better.
And coming in at number 1, likely to very little surprise, is The Exorcist, the original. We couldn't make this list without this movie. It is a legend, a classic, an inaugural film of its genre. Even though it is now 50 years old, it sure holds up. This film follows the possession and exorcism of a young girl, Reagan. Reagan's demon is violent, vulgar, and very powerful.
While many horror classics are overhyped and not as good as what their legacy may suggest, the original Exorcist film deserves all the praise it gets. The movie is a force of horror, making you feel uneasy and uncomfortable with its well-crafted scares and still being shocking even today. Beyond simple horror, though, the movie also has decent, relatable characters that are much more than simple horror movie tropes.
This is definitely an example where the original remains the best, and we love it.
And those were our picks for the top 10 exorcism horror films. And now that our review is done, I would like to examine the box further, as I noticed some interesting markings inside, and now that the demon is gone, I feel that there is no fear of possession. I'm the second demon of the box, and now free to cause havoc. I'm trying. Okay. Yeah, that's what's happening. Well, if you'll excuse me, I have to go shove a chicken inside of a duck, and then shove that duck inside of a turkey.
Well, brother is dealing with that, so there you have it. Our top 10 picks for best possession and exorcism films. Did we leave any out? Do you agree or disagree with any of our picks? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time. Until then, he is Scary Bro, and I am Scary Sis, and we are the Scary Sis.